Hey guys, Brian here. I'm literally sitting on the banks of the East River. I'm testing out a new microphone system that'll allow me to theoretically go out into the world. So I'm taking this opportunity, since I don't have a new episode for you again this week, to do a quick sort of state of the podcast episode to let you know what's been going on. First of all, as many of you know, my son was born last month, so that's been taking up a lot of my free time, as you can imagine. And second, as a lot of you know, I gave a TED Talk earlier this month. And that was actually a bigger time suck than you might have imagined. You might not know this about TED, but they take those talks quite seriously. Those videos that you see on the website aren't just people up there winging it. TED actually works with you very intensively to hone your talk into something interesting, and then they make you memorize it. And I mean, they really make you memorize it. There are no teleprompters, and except in very rare occasions, they never let you read from note cards. So, you know, those 16-minute long TED Talks you see on the website where people seem so spontaneous? Yeah, that person has been memorizing that talk for months. So basically, that's what I have been doing for every waking minute the last 3 weeks or so. You know, every time I was going for a run or on the train or falling asleep at night, I was listening to a recording that I had made of the talk on a loop to memorize it. So the long and short of it is, the talk went well, and as soon as I can share the video, I will. Anyway, those two factors combined to basically preclude me from researching and scheduling any interviews for this week. You combine that with the usual scheduling and booking snafus, which is to say I had a couple interviews that backed out on me or rescheduled, and so that's why we're having this discussion today, because I don't have a new episode proper for you. But one other thing happened last month which has kept me busy, and so I wanted to take the time to announce that now. The news being that I sold a book proposal based on the podcast to Liveright, which is an imprint of W.W. Norton. So as of right now, scheduled for release in the spring of 2018 is a book which is tentatively titled How the Internet Happened, by yours truly. A few of you have already heard about this and wondered how this news might affect the podcast, so let me address a couple things right now. First of all, the podcast will continue, and frankly, my intention is to keep the podcast going indefinitely, even after the book is published. There will always be people that I want to talk to, and, you know, history never stops. There's always new companies, new technologies being founded. That doesn't make any sense. There will always be new companies founded and new technologies coming out, so I'm pretty sure that I will be doing this podcast for years and years and years. And in fact, the fact that this book is coming out in roughly 18 months or so, I think that might even result in more episodes than you might have gotten otherwise, because I'll have to be doing more interviews. And since this is an official project now with an official goal and a deadline, as opposed to some sort of hobby that I did when I could find the time, this is going to be a higher priority. However, the nature of the episodes might change slightly, because I'm basically going to have to go back to the beginning of our chronology and fill in some of the gaps that we have. So I might actually be going all the way back to Netscape, AOL, Yahoo, and all those things that we've already covered in coming months, because basically I'm going to start rewriting all of those chapters. And occasionally, I might not do full, tell me the story of your whole career episodes. There might be certain people that I really only need to have shed light on a certain person or a certain moment of time or technology, so occasionally I might not do a full hour-long this is your lifestyle interview like you're basically used to. But since I'm committed to posting all the research here for posterity unedited, if I do one of these shorter focus episodes, I'll be sure to record a decent explainer or framing narrative to give you the backstory and explain why I'm interested in talking to this person. Some people have asked if the chapter episodes will continue, and the answer to that is I'm not sure, because either there will be plenty more of them, since I'll be using them to work out my rough drafts as I'm writing them, or else they might be fewer and farther between. But one thing I know for sure is that things that I can't fit into the book, especially those little nuggets and stories that I really won't have a place for in a grand unifying history of the internet era, instead of basically doing footnotes and such, I'm definitely going to expand those items into episodes here on the podcast. Others of you have asked if the chapter episodes, as you've heard them, are basically going to be going into the book verbatim. Like, basically, have you already heard the first part of the book? And the answer to that is no. No. In fact, those early chapter episodes will almost completely be rewritten. And really the reason for that is because what you guys have heard on this podcast is basically me educating myself and learning what I didn't know. I mean, I wrote those early episodes on Netscape, for example, almost 3 years ago now, and that was before I had gotten any interviews. So, I mean, I basically have learned so much more and uncovered so much in research that essentially, if I were going to tell the Netscape story today, I would tell it completely differently, you know, based on things that we've learned together on this show. And the same would be true for the chapter episodes on Amazon, Yahoo, eBay. I mean, you know, I would write the Microsoft stuff completely differently now, because we've gotten so many interesting details from, you know, Microsoft people in interviews that you've listened to on this podcast. It's not that I think those early episodes were wrong. You know, I'm going to leave them up because I stand by the research and my presentations of the facts as I knew them, but I've learned so much more in the intervening time that in the book I'll basically be able to present all of those things in a new and hopefully more comprehensive way. So that's a lot of words basically to say, even if you've listened to every episode of this podcast, you're still going to learn something new in the books, because the book is going to be basically my final draft. Think of the podcasts as the first draft of this material, and the book is going to be the final draft. You know, basically, as I've said from the very beginning of this project, you're listening in and you're looking over my shoulder as I put this grand history project together, and so you're basically seeing the sausage as it's made, so to speak. Finally, I feel like I've been apologizing so much for missing episodes lately, and some of you agree and have said, Brian, it's annoying, stop apologizing, we understand. And so you're right, I actually agree. I'll stop apologizing. My goal continues to be to get you a new episode every Monday. And for nearly 2 years, I pretty much hit that goal. But going forward, if I miss a week here and there, or even 2 weeks, don't worry, I'm still plugging away. I'm doing my best. And when I bank a bunch of interviews, I'll dole them out accordingly. But if gaps happen going forward, we're all in agreement that they're going to happen. And just keep looking next week, and hopefully I'll have something then. So that's what I've been up to. That's the big news. I've got 2 interviews coming down the pike this week. So unless those drop out on me, you'll have 2 fresh new episodes in the coming weeks. Thank you all again for all your help and your continued support on this podcast and this now larger project. Especially now that it has evolved from a hobby into something more like a real thing. Thanks especially to the donors, by the way. Those of you that have contributed monthly via PayPal. By the way, I'd certainly understand if you canceled those monthly subscriptions now that Norton is paying me to do this book. But by the way, Norton is only paying me to write a book for them. They're not paying me to keep the podcast going. So, donors, your support, it continues to be greatly appreciated. Those of you that have generously contributed, you basically pay for the the podcast hosting every month. You paid for this new microphone, that whole new microphone setup that I've been using in the face-to-face interviews all summer. You've paid for the books that I bought for research, so your continued support is, of course, appreciated. I'm super thrilled that thanks to all of you, this project is now leveling up, and all I've ever wanted is to preserve and tell the stories of the internet era. So that's going to continue. You've made it all possible by continuing to listen, share your suggestions, corrections, ideas for interviews, all that good stuff. In fact, I believe the next interview you'll release is 100% thanks to a listener suggesting this particular person and actually making the introduction. So look for that. Thanks for your continued support, and as always, thanks for listening. Later.